what you're saying. So there's no black and white when it comes to sexual orientation from a scientific perspective. We all have advantages and disadvantages. I don't know what it's like to be transgendered. I don't know what it's like to not identify as a gender that I came into Earth as far as all that goes. So I don't know what that's like. So there's advantages that I have. But owning the fact that we have those advantages, instead of making excuses and justifying, hey, look, you're talking to Daryl. He's black and gay. I'm suffering just as much as you are. That's not sustainable, and it's not working for us at all. So I do appreciate the fact that you have the humility enough, self-awareness enough. I think our generation, we are the generation that is moving into greater levels of self-awareness to be able to say, yo, I do have it a lot easier than you.
Well, and everything you just described, it really boils down to privilege. Is that
but see, white privilege is an illusion. We're gonna take a tangent on that. Right. White privilege is an illusion, but the gay agenda is super huge. So we're gonna talk about the white privilege is an illusion. Right. The gay agenda is a real thing. So let's start with the white privilege thing being a figment of our imagination.
Right. And the whole argument with white privilege, and just to put it very simply, is that my life wasn't good perfectly just because I'm white. I was raised very poor. I've had lots of hardships. The key here is that my life wasn't made any worse because I'm white. I didn't have any extra problems because I'm white. You know what I mean? When I get pulled over, I'm not too worried about dying because I'm white. That's something nobody's ever followed me around in a grocery store because I'm white. Yeah. I've never had to worry about when someone doesn't want to talk to me if they secretly hate me because of who I am, or they're just having a bad day. I've never had to weigh that in my head. Right. And that's why when you look at just being a human in society and interacting with other humans, literally every single interaction, you would have to weigh that very carefully if you're really thinking about race. Yeah. And so that's what when we talk about privilege, that's what it comes down to, is that I have the privilege to decide whether or not I want to pay attention to this. You just told me you appreciate me paying attention. I have the privilege not to.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
When we talk about privilege, it oftentimes gets swept up into identity politics. Because it's a very specialized term that has a lot to do with identity and has a lot to do with politics. When I say it gets swept into identity politics, I mean it gets swept under the rug. It gets dismissed as something superficial and ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, the concept of privilege is ubiquitous. It's something that always applies. Right. When we pretend to be unbiased, when we come into this and say, well, I'm not going to take a position. Right. By doing that, you are taking a position, and it is a position.
And you have the luxury to do that.
There are people out there, people like you, whose whole life is ingrained in this struggle. Your very existence, your identity, your humanity, your worth as a living being is compromised, is something that was being is contested all the time in legitimate circles. There are people who run the whole damn world that are arguing about whether or not people like you should be put to death. Right. That's a big deal. Yeah. That's a big deal. For me to sit here and say I'm not going to take a side on the issue, that all I'm saying is I don't care about you. Right. That's all it is, and that is an expression of privilege. So I absolutely refuse, and I think what you said is poignant, that our generation is key in this. What I love about our generation and the generation ahead of us is that we all seem, or at least the majority of us, seem to actively refuse to be silent about anything. Even if you don't have a good position, at least you're speaking.
At least you are speaking.
Because the thing
is, use your voice, because your silence is passive consent.
Exactly.
That's what I stand on that.
And it is a position of privilege. You get the privilege to not say anything. There are a lot of people in this world that don't have the convenience. They don't have the luxury of being silent.
And that is what I so appreciate about you, because I would like for those in the heterosexual community to consider for a moment the fact that you are free. You don't have you can go into any Judeo-Christian evangelical organization that you fancy at this moment. and be completely free to say and do. Quite frankly, you can be pretty much anything in the evangelical Christian church. You can be a crackhead, you can be a meth head, you can beat your wife daily and people hear you doing it next door across the street from the parsonage. You can, and they still will make you a deacon in the church and give you an honorable seat, but for God's sake, don't be gay. Whatever you do, if you could just for a moment practice empathy. Practice being in somebody else's shoes. But we can't do that with the whole dehumanization conversation we've already had. But just to imagine having to show up with a group of people and knowing that if they knew the truth of who you are, they wouldn't want you there.
Well, and that's another one of the really insidious parts about organized religion this way, is that it's very easy to be ethnocentric and to say my way of living is not only the correct way of living, it's the more human way of living. It's the best way of living. If I can say, well, I have this book written by the creator of the universe that told me. I don't, again, it's just like when we said earlier, I don't have to argue with you because I can pretend you're not human. I don't have to argue with you because the guy upstairs already said you're wrong, and now, doesn't matter what I do. Don't you know I'm saved? I'm already in the good side. You're the one who's choosing to be gay and go against what this book says, even though that isn't what it actually says.
Even though that isn't what it actually says.
This is the correct version of the infallible
Even how we take literature, we take spiritual literature, and we take things and we take little extra. They did that to the slaves way back when. They just would take all the passages that said they're neither slave nor free and left the passages in there saying slaves obey your masters because it suits your narrative and it keeps people in the little boxes that make it convenient for you to exist. Because of course that's really what's the more important thing. And again, I don't have no heat, no judgment on nobody, but the self-awareness, you saying it. Because if I say it, well, he's a black gay man, you already know he's a little off to the side.
No, but this is a book, this is a religion that was used to dehumanize you, your ancestors, all the way up to today. It's not something that just stopped. It is something that is still a problem for you right now. This is something that there are still places in the world. Westboro Baptist Church still freaking exists, you know? And there are lots out there that sympathize with them that may not be as extreme publicly, but believe the same damn thing. There are pastors that you can see on YouTube very easily that are up there saying that, you know, gays should be put to death in the government.
Do they really? Because see, I don't even know that. That's crazy.
There are absolutely people out there in this country you can find very easily online. I hope you get some B-roll.
Oh yeah. Like, roll it.
Yes, a pastor saying that you know the government should intervene and put homosexuals to death because that's what it says in the Bible. And that's the problem, is that this is something that has been used and is still being used to dehumanize people. And it goes back to what we said earlier. It's fine if this is integrated into your culture. The question is, do we need to continue to adhere to these ideas, or do we just need to say, hey, this is a part of history or whatever like that?